Hi, this is Liz Schlemer, and I'm going to be talking about time studies for facilities planning and design. So we've talked a lot about this idea of excellent engineering in a context, and time studies is one of those things that we need to understand the processes associated with these time studies. And you'll need this whenever you're doing any kind of layout design, because you'll need to know how long things take in order to develop capacity planning. So this whole process of looking at what kinds of data can you collect before you start generating alternatives is the sort of these 3 steps in the systematic approach. So some of the lists of the charts and diagrams that you might have access to are right here, and actually the first one I'm going to talk about is particular time studies. Companies might have developed standard times for doing many of the things we do, but they might also require that you go through and do a calculation of standard time. So I'm going to go through that in a process here. So the main thing you're doing is to try to figure out how long something takes. So it's going to be a particular operation. You need to define what that operation is, and then you need to study it. And usually you study it when it's kind of in production for a long time, not just right at the beginning, but when you've watched it for a while. So the first thing you're going to do is study the operation. And the next thing you're going to do, sorry about that, is you're going to divide the operation into elements. And usually those elements are things that are easily timed. So they need to be the right length, have to probably be more than 5 seconds. Usually 10 seconds is good. And then it can't be too long, because then it'll take you too long of time to do it. Also, the elements might be good to define when something happens that you can either visually see or that you can hear to begin and end a particular element. So once you've done that, you've defined the operation to elements, you're going to actually time the operator several times. Ideally, you know that when you're timing something or when you're taking any kind of sample, 30 is a good number. But sometimes that's too long, so you might just need, most of the time people have 10 cycles that they observe. So you're going to time them. Time each of the elements for 10 cycles. And in that process, then you're also going to be rating the operator. If an operator is going at a normal pace, a pace that seems sustainable, you give them a rating of 100. If they're going slow, you might rate them at 80. If they're going fast, you might rate them at 120. And then from there, you're going to calculate normal time using this equation, which is observed time times rating divided by 100. Then you're going to add allowances, and allowances are typically around 25%, but if it's a heavy kind of work, or if it's tedious, or if it's low light or awkward, then you might actually go as much as 50% for allowances. There are tables that you can get that help you to calculate the exact kind of allowance depending on the type of work. And then you calculate standard time. So you'll take the normal time, which is including the ratings, and then you add a percentage allowance to it. I hope that helps you remember about time studies. I know this is something you probably did in IME 223.